Well, welcome. We have quite a interview today. Welcome to the Progressive Rock Central and the Noble Shire of Progressive Discussion. Doris Brendel and Lee Dunham. I've been waiting for this for a while. These two are going to be fantastic. They have a great new album out. It's called Pigs Might Fly, and you really should go and get out there and listen to it. It is fabulous. All right. And how are both of you doing on this fine day?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for asking us for this interview. It's always nice to be asked, I have to say. And yeah, I think we're very well. How are you, Lee?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. Very, very good. On a wet and a rainy evening in GB, but apart from that, yeah, we're all good.
That's a shame. Yeah, we usually are raining like you here in Washington, but we've been lucky. We've been getting the sunshine during the day, but then it's brutally cold in the morning because the
Oh,
heat just blows out of here like the moon.
yeah.
Um, well, all right. I gotta first of all thank you very much. I I watched your video, Pigs Might Fly, and love the opening beginning of that thing, especially the fact that you guys highlighted Trump's clean coal speech. I mean, that was just brilliant. Because if you can believe in clean coal, then you definitely can believe that pigs will fly. But I'll let you talk a little about that, a little about the album name, title, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Shall I start? I mean, the song was actually inspired by Boris Johnson, because we had our own version of Trump. I mean, it's obviously
Yeah.
slightly different, but very similar in the sense that Boris Johnson is very good at never telling the truth about anything. He's very entertaining, just like Trump is very entertaining. But yeah, don't expect to hear anything of substance. And so, yeah, and of course we had Brexit as well, which for musicians is a complete nightmare. So it was kind of inspired. So pigs might fly is obviously the expression that it will never ever happen. So that song was very much my kind of ode to Boris Johnson. But it goes beyond that, because I think we're living in a time, America and the UK, where
Yeah.
it's fashionable at the moment not to tell the truth. It's sort of accepted, and there's quite a lot of people here who really don't like that very much. But yeah, pigs might fly. It's about, you can say anything and it never happen. And it was actually our bass player, Ewan. He said, "Why don't we all wear pig masks?"
I
And
like
it
that
was
effect.
his idea for our launch party. And so Lee put that that introduction together, and we sort of discussed it, and I said lots of oinking and some politicians clips. So he actually picked the coal clip. Do you want to tell us a bit more how you put that together, Lee?
Yeah, well, to be fair, I mean, I was spoilt for choice. If you could
Yeah.
just you can literally just put into YouTube or any sort of any sort of thing on the internet, you can put type in, and you will just get endless amounts of politicians saying ridiculous comments or ridiculous or lies basically. And that Donald Trump one to me was just stood out. It really did, in because there was actually a website that had I think it was called 10 of his best or something like that, which was quite just so amusing. I mean, I was literally crying while I was putting
Yeah.
it together in the studio, but a lot of them were too long, or the context wasn't quite right, or you needed some context before or afterwards to know why it was funny. So I just pulled out some excerpts and put them together as a backing track with some pig noises that lasted for about a minute of famous politicians saying blatantly rubbish quotes that are completely untrue. And it just so happened that we were standing on stage at the time with pig masks on, and I think that really did come across as a big thing, because it's sort of, I can see when you're watching that on stage, how hard hitting that would be, which I think it did hard hit, you know, because it could see that people were laughing, but then it was also a little bit freaky watching the pigs on the stage with the
I
noises
think that
as
was
well.
it. There were two big reactions. Some people just thought it was really freaky.
Yeah.
You know, just said it was quite spooky, and it was, you know, they weren't, it didn't make them feel good. But other people were really laughing at the quotes. I mean, myself, I found it really hard to keep a straight face. So under the mask, I'm giggling away. But yeah, I was actually really surprised when some people went, "Oh, that was really spooky." But I suppose in some ways it is. And I think because one thing I love about that whole clip with the oinks and the politicians, right at the end, the last word is lettuce.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it sounds like lettuce. So it was like, because it was that Liz who didn't manage to outlast the lettuce. And
Truss,
so
wasn't
that
it? Yeah.
Liz Truss, so that really made me laugh. So I just think it's all quite funny, but I think the masks, it does make it quite menacing as well, because I suppose, you know, we should take this stuff seriously. But me and Lee are very, very good at making light of things. I mean, we like to laugh at things rather than cry at them. So, but yeah, we're doing that again. We're playing HRH Prog, which is a big sort of prog festival in, well, less than 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing that again. Yeah, with the masks.
Yeah, the British are very good at humor. Shout out to Monty Python and one of their greatest leaders who just had a birthday. But yeah, definitely, you guys know how to laugh at some very difficult situations. And imagine, I'm a child of the '60s. Imagine the first people that saw those pigs flying at the Pink Floyd concerts, and
Yeah.
that was the minute I saw the album cover, I was thinking about that. I mean, that's generational, I guess. But
I saw Roger
thank you for
Waters.
bringing that back to us.
I saw Roger Waters recently.
He does
and
it
I don't know
too.
whether you saw his show. I don't know if he toured it. He probably did tour it in America. But nowadays it's drone flying pigs and sheep. I
Oh,
don't know whether you still see all the pigs have got drones on them, so they actually fly them around the arena,
yeah.
which is quite surreal. Anyway, it's great. You know, really good.
Which is, yeah, we don't have that sort of budget,
No,
unfortunately.
I wish we
have to
did
do,
have.
That's expensive.
yeah, we have to do
Roger
everything
Waters
on the
can-
cheap.
Well,
So yeah, cheap pig masks for us.
no, hey, whatever works. And for those of you that didn't know, and I originally did know when I read the press release and stuff, but Doris, her father is a world acclaimed pianist, Alfred Brendel, and he must have been an incredible inspiration to you. And I know, and I just want to ask you this because I know what it feels like to have my father was a head football coach, and for me, you had to play football. You had to play. I had 4 sports, and if I ever quit any of them, that would have been out the door in high school. So I know that pressure and that wanting to do at least as well or hopefully better. What is that like? And because
yeah, with my dad, that is impossible. You're not going to do better than my dad. He's had 20 honorary doctorates, and he's a professor of music, and he's, it's impossible. And he never recommended that we become musicians, myself and my half siblings. But no, he said, don't become a musician. And because he said, you'll always be compared to me. I'm sure if you ask Bob Marley's son and John Lennon's son, how is it being a musician? They'll go, well, I will always be my father's son. So you can never really be yourself. So no, he said, don't become a musician, do something else. And I suppose I always say jokingly, I went over to the dark side because I didn't do classical music. I did learn classical music when I was a kid. I was sort of brought up with it, but going into rock music, and I never really used my surname at the time in order not to embarrass him, you know. But most people in the rock industry don't know who my dad is.
Yeah.
So it hasn't really, I don't think it's made that much of a difference.
But as far as his, he obviously introduced you to music and wanted you to at least appreciate it. I'm certain of that. And
oh
you
yeah.
obviously have. But was there sort of a inspiration, maybe like you say, not to exceed his abilities, but at least to give it your best? And by the way, this lady was chosen for Derek Dick, who we all know as Fish from Marillion. His, as far as I know, he said it's his last solo album. I hope it's not. But she was chosen to be on that last solo album. So that's, I'd say that's a pretty damn good accomplishment.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I think I went into rock music more to be rebellious against my upbringing than to actually try and impress my dad. And funnily enough, because to him, to my dad, if it's not classical music, it's not music. So, but he has got a soft spot for me because he makes an exception for me, which is nice. And I think he's very proud of me because I've done my own thing rather than holding on to his coattails to you know, achieve something else.
Yeah.
But no, I think I was just very rebellious. You know, my parents were both into classical music, and I went into the rock music scene, and so yeah, I think this classic rebellion.
All right. Well, there's another person here, and he's very well accomplished too. Lee is a multi-instrumentalist. If I'm not mistaken, I might have reviewed one of your solo albums, maybe not. But tell us a little bit about you and your background.
So yeah, I grew up with just a normal average family. My father played guitar. He was semi-pro, played guitar a lot, and then obviously I had two brothers. But the three of us together, we just constantly played, and we had a big house with a studio in the basement. So in Hoddesdon in the UK, if anyone was from that area of about, I don't know, 10 miles in the surrounding areas in the early 80s, 90s, everyone would just come to a basement because there was equipment there. You know, equipment was hard to come by back then. You know, there was drum kit down there, there was a PA, there was singing, there was, so if anyone was interested in music, they would end up coming around this sort of way. And we had access to recording equipment, so we could record stuff. And obviously when you've got lots of different instruments hanging around, you can just pick them up and learn them, which just, you know, you can watch other people, you can learn off of people, and that sort of thing happened to me, which enabled me to play lots of different instruments. I took the guitar mainly as my main instrument. I found that I really, really enjoyed playing the guitar. And I sort of stuck with that all the way through, but I can play drums, I can play a little bit of piano badly, I can play, you know, but once you can play one instrument, it's quite easy to jump to other instruments easy. I can't do anything blowy because I know that Doris plays the flageolet. She can play the whistle, which is like an Irish instrument. It's like a flute, but it points downwards rather than sideways. And I've had a go on that, and I can play that pretty poorly. I just can't play anything blowy. But in the way of other instruments, it helps when you're doing production for songs or for film or anything like that, where you can hear sounds or soundscapes or sound effects or whatever it might be, and you can play the instrument that you need to make that sound. I was actually messing about yesterday with an auto harp. I don't know if you remember those, but it was like a little tiny harp that you hold in your hand, and you can press the buttons down, which mutes certain strings of the harp. And it's a beautiful instrument. It really is a lovely instrument. I was trying to tune it, which caused me a bit of a problem because I didn't have the right tuner for it. But once I'd managed it, I was like, well, this instrument's just fantastic. It sounds so beautiful to play. And I was thinking about writing something with that, but you know, hey ho, there's a million different instruments that you can grab your hands on. If you know, and some of them aren't even that difficult. You know, you've got people that play sort of mandolin sort of stuff, or you can play the ukulele. I think is real big now, where everyone can sort of pick up and just put a few fingers on to start you off. You can just very easily pick up an instrument now. I mean, they're hardly any money now compared to how things were. So yeah, in my background is just playing lots of instruments, and obviously the live thing came to fruition early for me. So we was getting to many bands and start playing as much as possible. I know Doz and I have been playing now for, I don't know, 25 years or something together. Can't remember. We did start counting the shows, didn't we, Doris? For a bit.
Tell us a little bit about how you guys came together and sort of found each other. And
I got stuck because I was signed to Sony early in the early 90s, and I was one of those people who got stuck in a record deal where I didn't own anything that I did. They refused to put anything out. I couldn't do, my career just stalled. So I went into sort of covers bands and show bands and sessions and anything else that I could do musically. And so I was in a covers band. I was looking for a new guitarist, and I put an ad in the Musicians Union magazine, which is like the UK union for all musicians. And Lee happened to see it and happened to be looking at that very particular moment and came to a show in London. And that's how we met. And then we didn't even work together well, we worked together a little bit, but then that project didn't happen. And it wasn't until, I think it was the year 2000 that a project that I had didn't quite work out as planned, and the guitarist turned out to be an absolute fruitcake. And I remembered Lee, and I said, "Oh God, why don't we ask Lee to do it?" Because it's amazing. You work with lots of musicians, and lots of musicians are so lazy and just want you to do everything. And when I remembered when I worked with Lee, he actually helped me set up the PA. He actually helped, and it was like, oh my God, this is just wonderful. And I thought, yeah, here's a person I want to work with. And so that's,
thank you.
No, but honestly, it's amazing how many people are just lazy as hell. They just do the absolute minimum. So with Lee, we're very alike in a lot of ways. We come from very, very different backgrounds, but we're both slightly hyper. We both like doing lots of different things. We both do things to the best of our ability. We're both quite chatty. We've both got very big imaginations. So whenever, it's great when we get together, we can, we never run out of things to talk about, but also say we want to talk about making a new video or some ideas. We can sit down and come up with a whole bunch of ideas, and we both go off in slightly different directions. And the other good thing is when we finally then decided to not just gig together and earn money, which we did for 10 years, and we used to do 5 or 6 shows a week. And going back to your earlier thing, I remember celebrating our 2000th show together.
Wow.
Because we did that many shows, but that was, not so much our own stuff, but just to earn money, And so when we decided, let's do some original stuff. So our first album together was in 2012. And we didn't know if we'd be good working on original stuff together, because it's quite different. We're both quite fiery and we're both quite opinionated, and we knew that we worked really well together live. But so that was the experiment. Not Utopia was just like, okay, let's see how we work together. And what we discovered was that it really worked well because we give each other room. So my strengths are, singing, if well, obviously that's a point of view, but it's writing songs. I'm very much a songwriter, and I do have instrumental ideas and things, but a lot of the time I just go, here's a song, here's a few ideas, whereas Lee does the things that I can't, which is the production, and he hears things that I can't. So instead of having the album that I did in 2010, which is my first original album that I'd done for many years, Last Adventure, I kind of did everything. I did all the writing, I did the arrangements, I pretty much told everyone what to play, so it's very much me. With Lee, there's a new dimension, because Lee has his own ideas and sees things differently from me. So together, we create something that is much bigger.
I think that's the reason why the material that we produce, it's diverse in its own entity, but it's sort of split because of that fact. You've got almost half of me and half of Doris's writing skills, sometimes squashed together, and sometimes it's seamless and you won't notice it, and sometimes it's very apparent sort of where the music goes all of a sudden, and then it comes back again to where it was, or it's not it's you can tell that it's multi-personality music, really, which makes it sort of into that prog category because of that fact. Because we're not like Dream Theater based, where it's all manic, or it's all, you know, even the verses are hard to listen to, or strange time signatures or stuff like that. I mean, it can be sometimes, but we did discuss at the beginning whether we wanted songs to be songs. And we definitely did want songs to be songs, as in, you know, you've got a verse and a chorus and a hook line and a melody line, and has to be lots of melody. And once you sort of start writing in that way, then it only leaves room for instrumentation at certain points, which is where I can then sort of embellish stuff, because sometimes I don't want to jump on Doris's songwriting because it's so beautiful. So there's no need. You know, so you have to be very careful on how to put the song together in the first place. And I think it comes out really, really well. I think it's very different. I don't think that anyone writes music like we write, like us.
I think we came up with a really good strap line, because I've been playing with AI a lot. I'm really getting into AI in lots of ways. And it came up with a really good description for our music, believe it or not, good old chat GPT. But it said that the bridge between classic and progressive rock. And I think that actually describes us really well, because we are the real proggers go, you're not proggy enough, you're not a prog band, you're a classic rock band. But the classic prog people say, oh yeah, but it's too complicated to be classic rock. So we're right in the middle, we're the bridge between classic and progressive rock, with some Celtic influences and a few other bits thrown in. But I think one of the things that also makes it very different is Lee and I are nearly a decade apart. So we do have different influences. I have more, you know, I'm closer to the Pink Floyd and the Led Zeppelin and the more bluesy singing, and you know, I have that influence. Whereas Lee comes more from a metal background, and that's where he started, and it's 10 years younger. So you've got we've got different decades influencing the music. And I think that also makes it more than it is.
It makes it more interesting. And I didn't want to interrupt you, but I got to say thank you. They have steampunk, they have metal, they have prog, they have blues. It's like the bands that I grew up with, like like Free, or like Traffic, you know, where, you know, you get this real prog masterpiece, and then 2 minutes later you'd get this blues thing that you thought they went to New Orleans for. So yeah, that's what makes music entertaining, and you don't expect the same thing. In fact, I was just gonna try to interject here. Have either of you guys heard the album by the Posies from the 1990s, Dear 23? If you're old enough to remember that time frame, and at least here in the United States, that thing was played on every radio station. And the song I Saw You brought back some of those. No, it's not exactly the same at all. You didn't borrow from me. You may not even know who they are, but that's what I mean. You just draw across so many different lines, and thank you. Really, that's what I'm trying to
thank you. Thank you for listening and for enjoying it. And I don't know that album. I don't know the Posies. I am old enough, but I don't really remember them being in the UK very much.
No, if you get a chance, just put that thing on listen to it all the way through. There's some pretty sad songs there. They still tear at my heart, but it is one of the most beautiful albums that came out of the 90s. But anyway, and being from Seattle area, they're definitely fans. And actually, I live in Bellingham. They're from Bellingham originally, the lead singer. But anyway, put that one on, anyone that's listening, and just give it a listen. It's incredible. But you really incorporate a lot of different music, and thank you for that. There's not enough. I mean, like you say, there are those progressive rock people that, well, it's not prog enough. Well, yeah, it's not supposed to be. I mean, Genesis, yes, they did all that, and no one's going to ever really compete with that. And Pink Floyd.
We do battle with that, though. We do
Huh?
battle. We do battle with the whole genre thing.
Yeah.
It makes it so hard to market ourselves. And we've had so many discussions about this. Should we try and be a bit more genre specific? And we keep going. I think we get bored and we get distracted, and we like. See, I think both me and Liv just like lots of different types of music. It's not, I always say, people who only listen to one style of music, I always say, well, do you just watch the news, or do you only watch horror films, or do you only watch, most people watch a bit of comedy and a bit of drama and a bit of, and have different moods, and you want something you can laugh at and something you can cry at and something that shocks you, and why should an album be any different? You want, all of human life should be here.
The old saying, the spice of life, variety. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And by the way, a lot of those big bands broke up because of what you just said. Pink Floyd, they're at each other's throats right now, and
Always have been.
yeah, you're doing, yeah, they have. But yeah, you gotta, and many of them went off on solo albums because it was like, I can't stand doing that same thing over and over again. But yeah, no, thank you for that. I gotta ask you, because I read this and I've never seen those. Tell me a little about these laser gloves.
Do you know what? They're American.
Oh, okay.
I had to order them from the US because I remember seeing them they first appeared. I always look for, being not a very big band and not being very famous, we don't have a lot of time to set up stage sets and things, and I've always looked for new and different things that would be entertaining, that don't involve knowing how to juggle or do any crazy things, or still walk or whatever. So I've always been searching for new things that might look good on stage, and I saw those and went, oh my god, I've got to have them. So I ordered them from the US, and I used them on a couple of tours, and they're great, especially when there's a bit of smoke, but hardly any venues will allow me to use them anymore because of health and safety. And it's basically because you can blind people with lasers, if you shine it in people's eyes. So there is an actual reason, but the thing is, you can get around these things if you fill in a risk assessment, which is this enormous big document of stuff. But I fail at the first hurdle because they have American specs, which immediately fail all risk assessments in the UK. And so when we play the O2 or any of the bigger venues, we are not allowed to use the lasers. But funnily enough, for our album launch party, which was a much smaller venue and a bit more intimate, I used them. And I didn't mention the fact that, I just didn't say anything. I just used them, and we got away with it. So that was great.
Yes, as soon as you have it's not just one laser, is it? You've got a laser on every finger. So basically, so it's not like the chances of you blinding someone are times 10 because you've got 10 lasers going at once.
But yeah, so we use, I mean, we try and use, I'm a bit of a trendsetter, because as soon as I find something to use, like I had a light cape, and then another band immediately went and used that, possibly
Yeah.
not because they saw me, but because they saw the same thing being advertised and went, oh, I must do that. And what else? I've had the sort of a laser whip, sorry, not a pixel whip with lights, but it just looked a little bit naff. That actually, it didn't look amazing. And I've tried different things. We've got a big wind up key for one of the songs where I'm a marionette and Lee just winds me up and I get back up. So, but Lee winds me up a lot, so I should be used to that.
The talking of trend setting, we've actually been quite trend setting in the album covers too, because we did
Oh,
the
yes.
Not Utopia album cover is the singing ringing tree, is it? That's what it's
Yes.
called, isn't it?
Yes. And then Uriah Heep used that on their next album.
No, I think that was Whitesnake or someone like that
No,
on
I'm
that
sure it was.
album. And then
Oh,
I
I
think
thought
it
it
was the Uriah Heep one was the head picture of with all the instruments on the head.
Oh, yes. Yes. The upside down world cover.
Yeah, and I think the band the Sherlocks nicked that as well. That album ended up on that cover that we had ended up on 3 other albums
And the
in
Pixies,
different guises.
the Pixies' new album has got a flying pig on it.
No
Wow, you
kidding.
see.
But do you know what? This is actually, it's really weird, because I've never been a follower of fashions. I've always been very rebellious. And I've always, even at school, I remember when flares were in the first time, I sewed by hand, I sewed in all my trousers to be like really tight. And then the next fashion was the drain pipes. And I thought, oh, everyone's copying me again. But I think it's just because I always try and be different. So I've had a lifetime of being an inadvertent trendsetter.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. All right. What we only have like 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Well, no, for this first one, and hopefully you guys are going to come back for a second one. It looks like Lee wants to play something, but it's up to him.
Oh no, I wasn't. I was before the. I've got a guitar in my hand because I was before you we went online. I was waiting to see whether it would come on because there's been a time difference. So the clocks in the UK went back, and I wasn't quite sure whether it would be 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. So I thought I'll just check and wait and see. And so I picked up a guitar while I was waiting, and then you came on, and I didn't have a chance to put it back. So I've still got it in my hand.
Well, but if you want to, you're more than welcome.
I could.
Not a requirement.
It's not even plugged in. It's just an electric guitar that I've got here. I don't even know if you can hear it. Can you? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I can.
Well, there you go. I can whittle away a little bit for you with no amplifier. There we go.
No, that's all right. I saw it and I thought, well,
I don't know if you can hear that.
Maybe he's itching to do something there.
I've always, if you're an instrumentalist, you have something on your normal 9 times out of 10, just whittling away, just playing away.
All right.
It might be good to mention we are going to start a new project soon.
Oh yeah,
it's a bit of a side project. Now, you probably listening to my vocals, a lot of people think of me as being a blues singer because I've got a very bluesy sort of husky voice, and I've got a bluesy style in the way I sing. And people have said to me for years, you must do a blues album, and I've always gone boring. And but actually we're going to do a blues album next. As I've already written a bunch of songs and Lee already has them, and it's going to be a variety of different blues tracks.
Chicago, Southern, what type of blues?
Variety. Again, you would expect me to do lots of different types. Yeah. So there's lots of different types, but of course a lot of it will depend on what Lee does with it as to how it's really going to sound. What I've done is I've written a bunch of some bluesy songs.
What Lee's going to do is try not to make it into a prog album. That's what Lee's going to try.
no covers. It's all your original material, no covers.
All original.
Oh, okay.
All original. Yeah, no, it's all written, but yeah, it's going to be under the name of Big Blue Sky.
Excellent. Yeah,
I've heard some of the.
other
I think
people-
you sent me 11 tracks, Doris. Doris sent me 11 tracks that she's been working on. You sent them over about 3 days ago. So I've heard a lot of them. I haven't obviously worked on any of them, but I've heard them, and they sound very, very good. They're good tracks. I just need to make sure that I don't overcomplicate them in any way, because I think their simplicity is how blues works best. You know.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, a
having
lot of
when
people. A lot of people think when you're singing the blues, it's sad. No, it's not always sad. It actually can pick you up.
Yeah, it's true.
Put on Stevie Ray, put on some Jimi Hendrix, some Led Zeppelin. I'm not crying anymore. I'm happy.
Absolutely.
Well, one of them's called Wi-Fi Weekend, and that's lots of fun. I thought first world problems. I'm not a very unhappy person, so it's